What's up, Eastern Oregon? This is Dodzy, and tonight we are bringing you Keeping It Clear with Cody Bowen. This is all brought to you by Oregon Trail Trader, East End of Adams. Go down there and see Bommy. I mean, he's what brings us this interactive program. And when I say interactive, it means that you have the opportunity to ask questions of Cody Bowen, and then we'll bring on our special guest after I have Cody in here for a minute. And tonight, that's the Grand Police Department Chief, Gary Bell. So what we're going to do is we're going to just talk for a second about Oregon Trail Trader. Then we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to bring Cody on, and then Cody and I will go through a few things, our normal little thing. I usually have a cop joke for him, but I ran out of ones that are like appropriate, so maybe we'll just have to have a little bit of banner. But go see Oregon Trail Trader. They're the reason why this happens, and I'll be back in just a minute with Sheriff Cody Bowen. We had Dane and Molly on the Keeping It Clear with Cody Bowen show, and somebody in the comments said you should let Molly bite you with the sleeve on. And I wasn't going to do it at first. Bud, come on, Bud. He's saying we need to try it one time. Bud, we're not trying. We're not trying. There's two things I'm not doing. I'm not going up in the sky, and I'm not getting bit by a dog, period. But then a bunch of people have been kind of peer pressured me into it, so here we go. She's looking like she's going to go, dude.
Reinforcement.
Like just let go. Oh, yeah. We're back. Cody, what's up?
Hey, man, it's nice to be back. How are you?
Oh, what is this, like the fifth or sixth time we've done this?
We're getting there. Yeah,
it's
got to be close.
It's an interactive program. So one of the things that we always struggle with is the icebreaker, right? Like that first person to ask the question. But once somebody asks a question, then they start tumbling, you know?
Yeah. There's a few loyals that we can count on. Dana, he'll chime in, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Josh will probably be here for sure. Yeah. There's
Hope
no
so.
doubt. What's new with you?
Not much, man. Things are going good at the office around the county. We've had some little excitement here and there with some stuff out at Embler School today. Had some investigations going on out there. Things are good. Things are safe. Things are positive. The deputies are working well with the school out there. Wrapping up some stuff there. Last time I was on, I believe I spoke about a couple of new patrol vehicles that we were in the line to get. However, that fell through. And boy, I tell you, trying to find a vehicle that's safe, that's functioning, that works for our deputies, it's hard to find right now. All the fleet programs are shut down. The dealers are trying to get back on board, backflowing the retail market. They're not selling anything at the fleet pricing right now. So that's tough. We had a couple Tahoes lined out. That fell through. Then we had the local guys out at Legacy Dodge. They were going to try and help us out and get some Dodges, and then Dodge corporate froze all the pricing, and we're expecting that to increase. So we got in with Ford. We have 3 Ford pickups coming, and who knows? That's quite a lengthy process. But excited to get those. We have some vehicle issues. The vehicles they're driven hard, and they're taken care of. The preventative maintenance is second to none, but they're just a lot of miles and a lot of hours on those vehicles, and important. When the deputies are high speed across the county, we want them to be safe vehicles, and not just for them, but for the general public as well. So I'm excited for those to show up.
Okay, so we got our first question, but Cecilia, we're going to wait for that question until we have Chief Bell on here, because I think that question will be important to ask both of you guys. So like I said, this is an interactive program. Tonight our special guest is the Grand Police Department Chief, Gary Bell. So let's just take a quick break and just get right into it. We'll bring Chief Bell on right when we come back. Department Chief Gary Bell. Gary, what's up?
I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, Cody and I have been talking about having you on for a few months. I mean, it's just it's been, like with COVID and everything, it's been like just smacking us around. So I'm so glad you got to join us tonight, and I appreciate you being willing to do this.
Yeah, me as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
So one of the things that we do is, the thing that we do is we field questions from the public, and because one of the things that Cody always talked about in his campaign was transparency. And you and I have actually spoken about transparency before in the past, and you've talked about how key it is in order to be successful in law enforcement, especially in a small town.
Right.
We already have our first question, so I'm just going to hit you guys with it. Cody and I have talked about this numerous times on shows in the past, but she says, with the recent overdoses, what are you doing to crack down? And then with the new laws, does it make it harder? Who wants to take that one first?
Go ahead.
Great.
They've heard me talk about it before.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it. Well, let me just, I guess, retract that and say I'm not happy to take it. I wish that it wasn't occurring, but it is a problem. And, I think some of our viewers may have seen just recently that, we partnered with Grand Run Hospital and LeGrand Fire Department and also our CHD partners to put out a notice that we have seen an uptick in overdoses in the last few weeks, and that's always concerning to us. And you're right, Dodsey, that with some of the recent legislative changes, ballot measure 110 specifically, we have a lot of drugs that are readily available in not just our community, quite frankly, but it's all over the place, and that's concerning. And it most certainly has impacted our ability to investigate and submit for prosecution the larger drug cases, because sometimes people say, well, why don't you just take out the dealers? Well, it's really challenging because we investigative practices for years and years and years where we might actually get probable cause and have someone that is just possessing what at one point was a felony drug amount, and then later was reduced to misdemeanor drugs. But now that is not an investigative tool that's available to us. So it's super challenging. So one of the things that we're doing at LeGrand PD, and the sheriff can speak to this as well, but all of our officers are carrying Narcan. And we do the very best we can in order to try to, provide aid to people and education, and we're partnering with our health folks here, like Carrie Bergiotti and those folks out at CHD. So I wish I could just tell folks that we're going to take care of this, but it's challenging. There's just no way of getting around it, and it's really concerning, and it damages not only the individuals that are overdosing, but their families as well. So it's very concerning.
Yeah, Cody, you got anything to say about that?
Yeah, I'll second on that. The Narcan is something that it's crazy to me that it's become a necessity, and where that came, we had officers that were getting exposed to a substance that we weren't familiar with, just basic skin-to-skin contact, or checking somebody for weapons or searching a car, and next thing you know, you have an officer laying on the ground that's overdosing because they had contact with fentanyl. That Narcan saves our lives just as much as it saves, the average citizen's life that's in a terrible situation. So it's a disappointing place that we're in our society, and we're doing the absolute best that we can to combat it and keep our community safe, for sure.
Yeah, I guess my question to that would be like, what's the plan? Like, do we have a plan? Like, is there a way that the community can help? Is there things that people can do is there like a number people can call? Obviously they can call the police, but is there like a way that the community can chip in to help try to find where this is coming from? And obviously it's coming from somewhere, and it's coming in pretty big shipments. And I don't want to say big shipments like truckloads of pills, but there's enough going around that 8 people are overdosing in a week. There's quite a bit coming in, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, if I can,
please,
Sheriff.
Yeah.
The fact is, Kyle, that it's from a law enforcement perspective, the law has changed. And so we can't just, and contrary to what some people, because we have a lot of community members that don't agree with this law. I talk to people all the time, and I understand that. I share the frustration, as do most all of my staff. But we don't have the tool to enforce our way through this like we did before. So something that we can do is basically reach out, because what we're talking about people. We're talking about people and community members, and most people they know someone, or they know some family that has someone that is drug addicted or has been, and so it's really a matter of communicating with family and doing what we can to help those folks through addiction, and reaching out to resources, and really not to get too far off the question, Kyle, but one of the most alarming things that we're seeing right now is fentanyl and the imposter drug that people are using fentanyl in at times when they're not aware that is what they're taking, and it's deadly. And honestly, it's becoming pretty prevalent as well. And what we're seeing is people are doing it purposefully. Sometimes they're lacing other, like heroin or methamphetamine and even marijuana with fentanyl, and it's just dangerous. So we need to make sure people know that. And the best thing that I got to say is just we need to have people not using it. And I know that's easier said than done, but you can always call us, and we will do everything that we possibly can to chase those investigations out. I have to stick into that transparency thing. The truth is it's just very, very challenging in law enforcement right now. And it's not that we don't have the desire or the interest to extend that effort. It's just that we have to follow the laws that we have been provided.
So, I guess the way I kind of look at it is like, because of the laws and because of what's gone on with 110, we almost have been put into a position where we have to take a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach.
Yeah, the Measure 110 was sold to the voters on the idea of treatment and rehabilitation. And as well as I do that the addict in anybody, no matter what they're addicted to, that they're not going to address that problem until they're ready, until they're willing to they've been at rock bottom multiple times, they're willing to do that. The idea behind the 110 was issue someone a citation, give them a tool to get to a treatment facility. Well, until we build the treatment facilities with enough beds to house enough of these folks that are in this situation to provide them that structured rehabilitation spot, it's not going to work. And quite frankly, you ask what we can do. It's hard not to give up on your loved ones, and it's hard not to be angry at the people that have been, victimized you. But the more that we can educate people and let them know, and the more that we can let them know that we're there for them, and there's consequences to your actions, but at the same time, we got to be supportive role and not make it so darn socially acceptable. This is our problem. We all need to tackle it as a whole, and success will come eventually. I think there'll be some changes to the Measure 110, and but it's going to come down the road.
Okay, so basically, be proactive in the education and the just letting people know. For me, like, it's really hard, like, because heroin addicts know that heroin's not good for them. They know that you can overdose from heroin. So it's like one of those things, like, just the proactive part is education and trying to make people know, even be more aware that, fentanyl, pills, whatever, any drug that you're doing could be laced today.
Sure. Yeah. And heroin's one of its own. It's not one of its own, but it's one of those beasts that it has a physical sickness. When people, they get addicted to it and they continue that addiction just so they feel good. They don't take it for a day, or they don't use it for a day or two, and they physically cannot function. They can't focus. So in order to get normal again in their eyes, they're chasing that high. So it's a mess. It definitely not something that can be done alone.
I like the fact that, our community is at least addressing it and willing to talk about it. Because, I mean, heroin's played a pretty big, significant role in my childhood, man.
Yeah.
And I know that what happens, and I've been through it. And it's just one of those things where it's super important to me to see the united front, regardless of what the laws are. As long as we're all on the same page and we're all doing the same thing and we're consistent, there's going to be results.
Yeah.
All right, Chief Bell, I got this one's going to be all you. I believe I kind of gave you a full warning. How you dealing with the homeless hanging out in Max Square?
Yeah. Well, honestly, Kyle, there's a connection with the topic that we just discussed, and homelessness in not only our community here, but around the state. And if you pay attention to current events nationwide, I mean, we have some social problems in our country, and we are most certainly not immune from these issues in our own community. Let me just start with saying that I am 100% ready to tell you and to reaffirm to our community today, just like I have been throughout my career here, that we have an incredible community and we have a safe community. And I raised my family here, and I would do it again. This is an incredibly wonderful place, and the people here are fantastic, and we all know that. But I think it's important to preface, the discussion that way. What is law enforcement going to do about homelessness? Let me just say that law enforcement, the LeGrand Police Department, your local law enforcement, and law enforcement in America, we were never intended, or are we equipped, resourced? We don't have the capacity to fix all of the social problems that we wish that we could, honestly. Many times, my police officers receive, in the neighborhood of 1,000 calls a month. And those calls for service have all become more complex, and the dwell time, what I mean by that is how long it takes the officer to deal with those particular calls for service, has only grown and increased over time. And if we could fix all of these things, we would. But a lot of times what happens in our communities is when we don't know who else to call to fix issues or problems, then it's the police that get called. And we're happy to try, but I'm just going to be very blunt and say that as a police department, law enforcement, we cannot fix homelessness. What we can do is communicate with partners and do everything that we can within our capacity and within our disposal to work collectively towards common goals and towards a positive direction. So some of the things that we are doing, we work very closely, specific to Max Square. We have been for several years now. We've been working very closely with our Parks Department, our staff at City Hall, and other community partners in a way in order to try to impact that in a positive way. Just recently, we've had meetings with some of our downtown merchants. We're planning a forum that I anticipate we're going to schedule within the next couple of weeks to invite community members and some of our downtown merchants that are interested in attending, just to share information so that they know what we have done, what we're doing, and what our limitations are, honestly, just to share information so there's knowledge out there, what we can do, what we can't do. There's a very distinct difference between what we can do with the body of laws at our disposal on private property versus public property. I could go on and on and on, but I'll try to be as brief as I can. The sheriff says I share too much information sometimes, but don't laugh at me.
Yeah, that's me.
But really, one of the things that I'm not trying to bore people, but we have to follow the rules in law enforcement. Integrity is paramount, and there was a Martin versus the city of Boise case that went before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017 and 18, and that changed what we can do with homelessness on public property. And really specifically, it addresses you cannot legally criminalize constitutionally homelessness. So when a person does not have somewhere else to be, if they're lying down, sleeping, or resting in a public space, specifically Mac Square in this circumstance, we can't use ordinances like what we have here still on the books in the city of LeGrand, and most other municipalities in the city or in the state of Oregon have, about camping or sleeping in public places. So we can't do that anymore. So we're looking at other alternatives, and part of the effort between or with this forum that we're looking at doing is we're open-minded, and we don't have a patent on ideas. So if our downtown merchants and community members have ideas, I mean, that's one of the things we want to do, is just engage in dialogue, and we're working with partners like at CHD. Aaron Grigg is our behavioral health director out there at CHD. He's a wonderful partner, and there's some really good things that they're doing and some things on the horizon. And I talked to him today, and it looks like he's going to attend the forum, so he can share some of that as well. So we're working on it. I wish I could tell folks that I'd pull out my magic wand that I share with folks sometimes, and I just don't have. I'm all out of pixie dust. I just can't fix all of these things.
Cody's probably got something you can borrow.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Cody, you going to take, do you want to talk about that at all?
No. To reiterate the fact, nationwide, we're top 20 safest cities in the United States. Top 20 in Oregon, excuse me. And I think we were number 11 last year for the safest cities in Oregon. So, that's something to be said for, the local community, law enforcement wise, across the board, whether that's the county, whether that's the city, whether that's the state. I mean, we all work so well together. That's something to be proud of. And just like you said, my family's here. My kids have gone to school here. I grew up here. This is the safest place that I know of. We just have some little issues that we need to work on and figure out, and we will.
Yeah. I mean, I work down here. I'm down here every day, and I kind of look at it more of just an eyesore. Like, I've read a lot of comments about people saying that they're dangerous, and I've never, ever seen anybody do anything that I would consider dangerous at Mac Square. I'll attest to that. I never have. Not one time. And I walk every day. I walk right down Adams, walk right by there. And so, I mean, it might have happened, but it's never happened when I've been down there. And I'm not, like, condoning it by any means, but at the same time, I think it kind of gets blown out of water because there's people that are against it because it's an eyesore, so they automatically take it to that next level of, they're threatening people and this. I've never, ever seen that. I'm not going to lie about it.
Yeah, well, Kyle, if I could, just to carry on a little bit with that, is, public safety is one of those things that's not only just the reality of, dangers or violence, things that might happen in a community, but it's also felt. And so, perceptions are important. And so, when we have people that are concerned about maybe if they're getting off work at a later hour, and especially this time of year, I hate it when I go to work in the dark and I go home in the dark. I know a lot of people are the same way, but that's a real thing, and in my office, my staff would probably chuckle if they hear me say this, because they hear it all the time. And it's one of our core values about treating other people the way we would want to be treated, or we would want a member of our family to be treated. And so if it was, my one of my children, or my spouse that didn't feel safe leaving their place of work to walk to their car, I get it. And we want to make sure that we do everything we can to instill that sense of safety in people. And for the most part, you're absolutely right, Kyle. We don't have a great deal of incidents of actual physical violence, in our community, and that's a good thing. And we want to continue that. And that's one of the things we want to hang on to about the qualities of our community here. But I'm not, in all honesty, we do actually have times that people engage in criminal activity, in not only in all parts of the town, but in our downtown core area, and we respond to those and take the appropriate action. But it's really important that we don't fall into a trap where we categorize or lump all people into the same bucket. And that's one of the things that we work at our office is, some of the people that we're talking about is we contact these folks, we talk to them, get to know who they are, and they all have different situations, and we do the very best we can in order to try to find out if there's, they may not be engaged in criminal activity, but is there something that we can do in order to provide a connection to a local resource, whether that's mental health treatment, maybe substance abuse, because you see the correlation, the first question, oftentimes there is, a substance abuse issue or maybe a mental health issue, and it's not uncommon both. So very challenging social issues, and it's going to take a very collective, broad effort that's much larger than just law enforcement to fix some of these social issues, Kyle.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we do this show, Chief Bell, is people don't, like, the general public doesn't necessarily understand that, like, beds in drug treatment centers in Oregon are full, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to treatment centers this time of year to get off of the streets because it gets cold. And like, your average person that hasn't been around that, and hasn't been in the recovery scene doesn't understand that. And part of getting them this information is it's crucial, because I think people need to understand, like, more than just that, just that narrow, there's a whole bunch of homeless people hanging out at Max Square.
Yeah, and try as we might, the truth is some people don't want help. We will try to set things up and appointments, and like I said, we have great community partners that are able to do things that the sheriff's office and the police department don't have within our list of resources that we can provide, but we will direct people to those, and oftentimes we will offer rides to appointments and things like that, and unfortunately sometimes people just don't want to do that, and absent some very specific circumstances, we can't compel people to do it. But it's a very
as soon as I tell these good people about Carl Baum and Oregon Trail Trader, I have one more little question for you about this issue.
Sure.
But did you guys know that Oregon Trail Trader doesn't just sell guns? I mean, they sell all kinds of stuff. They sell camping supplies, hunting supplies, fishing supplies, gear and accessories. East End of Adams, go see Balmy Boy at Oregon Trail Trader. All right, Chief Bell, the last question I have, and I just thought of this, I don't know if it's ever been addressed, but is there a possibility, and has it been talked about, could there be a camera put up there?
That has come up recently, Kyle, and we haven't vetted that out entirely. It is possible, it could be done, and I think that the idea has some merit. I don't know what the cost might be, but I do think that it has some potential, and that's something that we will continue to talk about, because here that segues nicely into something I should share, and that is that I drafted a letter and shared recently, kind of in response to some of the concerns that have come to the front, and that was not in a effort not to talk face to face with people, but it was really that stopgap. Wanted to get some information out right away. To let folks know that, hey, we're thinking about this and we're on it, and what your thoughts and what you're feeling really do matter to us. But the camera idea, I think, segues into, if you see something, I mean, there's this saying, if you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you see people engaged in things that just don't look right to you, or if it's causing you concern, we're asking, call us. And I know that I don't want people to think that means that we're going to come lights and sirens, because we have to weigh these out in priority with all the other calls for service we have. But that's one of the nice things about our community. You call the police department, you're going to talk to a police officer. A lot of our cities that are seeing a lot of social issues, I mean, you're not even going to get to talk to a police officer if your car's stolen, Yeah. And that's not the case here. I mean, we've always been community oriented. That's the thing where people talk about, we need to get back to community-oriented policing. We've never not done community-oriented policing in LeGrand and Union County. Yeah. We know the people that we're serving. We're just as apt to see them, at the grocery store and in a non-enforcement situation, as we are, when we're in uniform or working. So we're asking people to call us if you see things that aren't right, or people engaged in activity that it seems as though that they shouldn't be. Don't hesitate, give us a call. And we don't expect people to know what's legal, what's not legal. That's part of what we do. I mean, let a police officer come down and see you and tell them what's going on, and they can provide you what our options are and what we can do to mitigate the issue.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I would think that a camera would be at least a little bit of a deterrent. I mean, if you know you're on camera, you're probably not going to sit there and smoke a weed pipe in public.
Right.
I mean, I think. But is that legal?
You would think.
So you flash this to our camera. That's live right now. We might be able to hit Max Square from here. Is that legal to film in public like that? Like to have a camera on? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Public place, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Cody. Let's move on to this question. I'm gonna let you decide if you're gonna answer this or not. I don't care if you do or not.
Okay. Great.
So pertaining to the responses, the responses to overdoses, I believe, is where this question comes from.
Hey.
Is mask wearing a part of the medical response on these episodes?
Is mask wearing a part of it? So are they asking, is medical that responding, are they wearing masks?
I think that's the question. Is the people that are responding on these episodes wearing masks? I don't know how that pertains to.
I honestly couldn't speak for the EMS. I know that when any calls that I've been to, I've seen them. They've gone from the full PPE, full protective gear down to masks, the face shields, to wearing that stuff again, to now just down to masks. I don't know what their responsibilities or what their protocols are. I've instructed my deputies to, this is something of their choice. If they're in a public place that requires a mask to be worn, then respect that business, because it's not the business that's telling you, it's somebody that's threatening them with fines or lawsuits or whatnot. So, be respectful. If you don't want to go into the place, don't go into the place. That's your personal choice. But at business and at work, be as respectful as possible. It's still your choice when it comes to the vaccine or not the vaccine. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not an anti-masker. If I want to go into a business and they require a mask, I'm going to put a mask on. My personal choice is I've had COVID. I don't feel a need for me to get a vaccine, but I'm not one fit all. My parents have been vaccinated. My friends have been vaccinated. My friends have made it through COVID. Some of my friends have not made it through COVID. And it's just a personal choice. And responding to these, I think we said last time we we're going to talk about COVID anymore, but safety is safety. And if we get notified this is a possibly positive COVID home, then folks are going to do their best to protect themselves and protect others.
Good. Chief Bell, do you want to add anything to that, or are you good?
I think the sheriff covered it for the most part. I mean, I think that it's important to share with folks that even before we knew anything about COVID-19, our police officers are they're equipped with a whole litany of personal protective equipment, including gowns and face masks and eye protection and all of that. So it depends on the circumstance. They've always used PPE. Currently, my agency and the city of LeGrand is following the mandates from the state, and so they're not all. If you see a police officer that's not wearing a mask, it's oftentimes they're in an enforcement situation where it's really important that maybe someone is able to see the situations that we find ourselves in on the regular basis, Kyle, is communication is key, and we can't afford to have people misunderstand maybe what a police officer is telling them. So there's enforcement situations and some situations where it's just not feasible, but more often than not, if they're in close proximity to someone, especially if it's a medical call for service, that officer is going to likely have on a face covering.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying 100% there with the communication being key. I mean, it's life or death sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in those situations, that person laying there that I'm administering mouth-to-mouth to or chest compressions is not going to ask me if I'm vaccinated, or are they going to care if I have a mask on? I'm in the middle of life-saving. I'm trying to communicate. That's the farthest thing from our mind at that point.
Absolutely. Cecilia says, thanks, you guys rock, bless your souls, and then help us to help you. So this question's Cody, do you guys do Shop with a Cop too?
Yes.
Okay, so the next question: are you guys excited about Shop with a Cop coming up? That's coming up a week from today, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take this one. I'm sorry because I am excited.
It's all them, absolutely.
No, here's the thing. This is the 13th year that we've done Shop with a Cop. Awesome. We didn't think about this program, but this is one of the best outreach programs. 28 years I've been doing this, and this, man, when we get a chance, you guys know, and the viewers know that, working in public safety, in law enforcement particularly, it is rewarding. And Cecilia said, bless us. But the truth is, it's like, I'm blessed. I mean, to have been able to serve this community that I care so much about for all these years, I truly feel like the lucky one. But when there's a lot of calls for service that people don't thank us, I mean, the firemen, my partner that I just have so much respect for, Chief Cornford at LeGrand Fire, they get all the thanks, and we banter each other all the time, but we don't get thanks a lot. But so when we get to do things like Shop with a Cop, our officers, and we partner, and we have since the beginning with the Sheriff's Office and the state police, and we have a whole group of volunteers that help us with this. Man, it is a feel-good program, and it's a way that we can reach out to. I wish we could do it for more kids, honestly. We just don't have the capacity to do it, but we have 15 kids that we're going to be shopping with next Thursday, and we have some retirees that are coming back and that are going to participate. And that ought to tell you how a lot of times when people they retire and they're done with law enforcement, I mean, their tank is empty, But this is one of those programs. They just love it, and it's just a really, really neat program, and we're so we are excited. So I hope you can tell.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, very much. What about you, Cody?
I'm excited. I'm really bummed out this year. I'm not going to be able to make it to Shop with the Cop, and this is the first year that I haven't made it in the last 8 years that it's gone on. And it's to be there and see the kids come off the bus and the smiles on their face, and to go shopping and fill up that cart. And what never ceases to amaze me is when some of these kids are 10, 12, whatever the age are. When I was that age, I thought about myself, but all of these lists that these kids bring and they're put together, they go shopping for their family members, their little sisters, their mom, their dad, their grandma. They make sure everybody else is taken care of, and then they get a little surprise at the end, and they get to pick something out for themselves. So it's something that just puts a smile on your face, and this time of year and the season, and man, I'm really bummed out I'm not gonna be able to make it this year, but it's one of those things that is a staple in our community, and I'm proud to have been a part of it so far.
What is this, year 13?
Yeah, this is year 13, and
wow.
It's just a unique opportunity when we can actually have a police officer and a child, and they get to see that human side of that officer. And I mean, oftentimes it's hard to tell who's got the bigger grin on their face, the officer or the child, and it's really neat. And while we're on the topic, I got to give a shout out to Lieutenant Jason Hayes. He's a longtime local police officer. He's my second in command at the police department, and he was at the foundational development of this program those 13 years ago. Him and now retired Sergeant Scott Franks were partners on it, and Jason has been instrumental. And the truth is, it's just like a lot of things that people don't get to see how much work actually goes behind the scenes. He goes out and contacts families, to make sure that they're good with it, and gets waivers and talks to all the kids. And but it's worth it, and we are super excited. So I appreciate that question.
Yeah, talk about bridging the gap. I mean,
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of kids, especially nowadays, even more, that are afraid of police officers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is a program that just bridges that gap. What's the age cutoff for Shop with a Cop?
So it's like 6th grade.
6th grade?
Yeah.
And then do kids just apply, or do you guys just find families that,
Well, since the beginning, the way we partner with the school district, and so each of the schools, they select the kids for us, and then like I said, this year, and it all depends on season to season or year to year, but we usually try to do like 15 kids, and so each of the schools gives us a few kids, and we we get that information from them. So we're not the ones that are picking the kids. And like I said, I mentioned it earlier, but we wish we could do this with so many more, and because there's so many more that are deserving and that we'd love to, have this outreach opportunity with, but it's just, we just don't have the capacity to.
All right, Chief Bell, I'm going to give you a little bit of time, and then we're going to get you out of here. So talk a little bit about what's going on with hiring and recruiting.
Oh, yeah. It's challenging. It's not just in law enforcement or police work, but everyone I talk to in the community, man, there's so many people that are looking for employees, and we certainly are not immune from that. 20 to 25 years ago, our agency, with one opening, we might see 150 applications. Today, we're lucky if we see 20. We cannot afford any more today than ever to lower the standards. Our community deserves the absolute best from our police officers, and that starts with the right people and the right character that these people come to us. We're going to give them the very best training. These police officers are getting better training than I got, but that's the way it should be. But it's challenging, and the last 18 to 24 months is not the only thing that has impacted the negative return on recruitment that we're seeing, but this has been trending. Public service in general. I mean, I talk with all of our volunteer organizations. We can't get volunteer firefighters. For whatever reason, generationally, we just don't have people volunteering and wanting to serve publicly. But we have 2 openings at the police department right now, and we are taking applications. So if we got a viewer, or if you know someone that is interested in public service, I would highly encourage it. And it's challenging, but for the right person, I will offer to you that it is rewarding, and it's as worth it today as it was, like I said, 28 years ago. And my son is pursuing a career in law enforcement, and actually works for my partner here next door. And I couldn't be prouder of him. And so we need good people. And if you care about this community and you want to serve, it's most certainly rewarding. Not gonna deny that there's not challenges, but it's definitely worth it, and it's something that will change your family forever, because people will be proud of you, and you're doing something worthwhile. And we all do something that's greater and larger than ourselves when we're police officers. We're a part of a team, but it matters. What we're doing matters. So
awesome.
Yep.
Well said.
I'll speak for Cody real fast. Chief Bell, we appreciate you coming on and being the guest on our show today.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure. You guys, thank you.
So we'll take a quick break. Cody and I will come back and wrap this up. Do you have any last second questions for Cody? Blast them off in the comments. And like I said, we'll take a quick break, and Cody and I will come back and we'll finish this up.
EO Live is your connection to Eastern Oregon. Get the latest and most relevant news in 2 minutes or less with Megan Demersion on our evening news broadcast. We cover Eastern Oregon's weather daily with Gabe, the EO Live weather kid, with an extended forecast every Friday. Watch Dodzy on EO Live Sports to get the latest sports information and interviews with local coaches, athletes, and more. See Brent and Dodzy goof and gaff with local guests on EO Live's morning talk show, AM on EO Live. We're available across the board, including Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Fire, and of course, our very own website, eolive.tv. We even have our own Roku channel and 24/7 live streaming via Strim. You can also listen to our shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and many other popular podcast apps. You can get everything all in one place with the EO Live app, available on Android, iOS, and the Amazon App Store. EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon.
All right, we're back. If anybody has any last second questions, get them in there right now. Otherwise, I'll hit Cody with a hard one now that Chief Bell's out there, because it pertains more to the county. What this wolf thing?
Woof. Is that WUF?
Yeah.
WOF, yeah.
Okay, so I read the Oregonian article today. There's wolf poisoning going on.
Yeah. That took place a few months ago. Finally got some results back on that. And I'll speak very candidly about that. And I don't want to, you know me, I'm going to tell you what I think. But we have great partners with ODF&W. We have great partners with Oregon State Police, and they do the absolute best job that they possibly can. But the wolf situation, just like it started in many other states, in Oregon, has been mismanaged. And now you are seeing the repercussions of that mismanagement. You have local folks that, assuming this is a poisoning by someone local or whatever that may be, they're taking it into their own hands. They're fed up. They've had enough. They've reached out. They've asked for help. The help that's been provided hasn't done the job that it should have done. And now we have not necessarily the local folks or the ranchers, the farmers that are suffering, but now the wolves are suffering. I mean, that was a whole pack that was wiped out, which should not have happened. Management of these invasive species, because they are not something that is originally from here. They were introduced, and they've been mismanaged, plain and simple. So we need to put all the politics aside, put all the, whatever it is that's keeping us from managing these wolves correctly. Everybody get on the same page, or this is going to continue to happen. Poaching is an issue. It's not so much as it used to be, but when these animals start taking their toll on folks, people have had enough, and people will take it into their own hands, unfortunately, and there will be consequences for that. However, I stand with the farmers and ranchers. They're losing their livelihood to an introduced species that I don't agree with should be here. But that's not to say that killing them randomly and poisoning them is the answer. We need to do it with laws. We need to do it with rules. But we need to do something, because what we're doing is not working.
Yeah. We got one question.
Yeah.
Scott Ray says, "What's up with the beard?"
Well, November came and went, and I forgot to shave it off, but I'm going to shave it off tomorrow. So
You are?
Yeah.
You're going back to old baby face?
Yeah. No, not off completely. I've
going
had a
goatee.
goatee. I've had a
You're
goatee
going
since I
goatee.
left Les Schwab. And now Les Schwab, I don't know if you noticed, but you can have facial hair down there, which just blows my mind. But yeah, so
It's like the Yankees.
when I shave it off, I look like I'm 12, and nobody will take me seriously. So yeah, I got to leave a little bit on there.
Awesome. Well, Cody, let me give a little shout out to Bomb, and then we'll get out of here. Oregon Trail Trader, like I said, they're not just a gun shop. East End of Adams, go see Bomb. They have all kinds of stuff: non-lethal defense, optics, targets, stuff for hunting, stuff for fishing. Johnny and I made a commercial there one time, and he has like some pretty cool old World War II and Vietnam surplus stuff, Cody. And I put on this metal hat, and I had an M1 Grand, and I was marching around in the commercial. It was pretty cool.
I remember that. Yeah.
Eastern Oregon, I appreciate you keeping it clear with Cody Bowen. Once again, thank you to LeGrand Police Department Chief Gary Bell, even though we called him Dan Bell for a little while. My apologies for that. He does have a brother and a dad named Dan, but that's neither here or there. Cody, I appreciate you, man.
Likewise. Thank you.
We're out.
Sweet.
We didn't get very many questions.